we did do a 3 with me. And so
we did.
It is time to discuss
you could,
the Millionaire Detective.
Millionaire Detective. So I'm just gonna give my quick little review of it, and then James can give you his, because it is way more detailed than mine. But yeah, so I enjoyed it, but if I had not watched the first 3 episodes, I probably would have dropped this during episode 1. Not gonna lie. Or I would have watched episode 1 and been like, eh. And then if there was nothing else on, or if I had nothing else to do, I would have been like, all right, well, let me check the rest of these episodes. Like, maybe this is different. The first episode really didn't grab me. The overall premise is cool. It's interesting to see how they solve the crimes, but I also thought that this was going to be more so of like a detective kind of thing, as opposed to like a policing kind of thing. And it's way more policing than it is actually like detective work. I thought the money wasn't going. Like Millionaire is in it's in the name, but I thought the money was going to be used in a more nuanced way, not in a just like I'm just going to throw money at shit and I have unlimited amounts of money. Yeah, like I'm literally just going to like break all of the walls in storytelling, not in storytelling, but just like I'm plot immune. I'm plot immune. Nothing can affect me. At least so far. I like the AI. I like the AI shit is cute. I like the animation stuff. I like how things are set up. I enjoy the process of the anime as far as, here's what we're going to be focusing on this week. And, the episodes are pretty much self-contained so far. And I like how he basically he has to think of how he's going to have the AI work for him and how he's going to do shit. So I enjoy that. Like he actually is a part of it in some form or fashion. He's not just letting the AI do all of the shit. But at the same time, I don't know. I just wanted there to be some actual like mystery or intrigue with it, especially since the episodes are more self-contained. And it's possible to do something in 30 minutes because we've seen it done before. So I don't know. I'm probably going to continue it, but not in an aggressive manner. Most likely this season will end and it'll be like that random like 1 week break where like nothing comes out, or that 1 week where only like 2 shows premiered, and I'll be like, well damn, I want to watch something. That'll probably be when I'll like continue to go through with it. I don't know. Well, I do know because I just said all that shit, but it just really, I'm not going to say it wasn't for me. It's just not something that I'm going to immediately run out and tell everyone to watch. So, yeah, I'd really like to know you guys' views on this.
Yeah, I think when we gave this synopsis, I was expecting a different show than what I got. Yes. I don't know if you had that feeling as well.
I did too. I thought it was going to be a much more serious tone.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that stuck out to me was that the show works better in my own head as a comedy than it does as anything else. I think I was in a very foul mood after watching a regular, and then I just picked this up and said, I'm going to get these episodes in, see what it's all about. And so I wasn't in a very serious place mentally when I started watching. In fact, I'd mostly forgotten the synopsis. I just knew that there was like a super rich guy. He joins a detective agency. They solve crimes. Based on the key art, I also wasn't sure what era it was going to be set in, because the design for Kanbei looked very, quasi-Victorian, but it's modern. I mean, computers, cars seem to take place in present day. And then I watched the first episode. And I want to preface this by saying I do not hate this show. I do not think this show is, air quotes, bad, because I think it's trying to do different things than maybe what my expectations were and other people's expectations are. So everything I'm going to say now is just based on my own interpretation and maybe misinterpretation of what the show is going to be about. But in the first episode, we get introduced first to Haru, who is sort of kind of like a disgraced police officer. We don't really learn all that much about it, other than apparently he shot somebody and then felt bad about it, and so he got kicked out of the good police department and into the shitty one where he has to go like mind lost children and like tell people to pick up their garbage or something like that, and everyone in his department is a moron and they don't care about their jobs. They don't really want to do anything. So that's the character that we get, is this kind of like down on their luck police detective, but he cares about public safety. He gets out there. He suspects there's like, you know, crazy shit about to go down. He finds his old homies and steals a radio earpiece and finds out that there's a bomber trying to kill a rich Middle Eastern guy who's doing a car show for some reason in the city. Okay, cool. So now we've got like the setup where here's a disgraced detective who finally has a case that he can pursue, and he's being blocked at every turn by his own compatriots who just think he's a piece of garbage. I think one of the characters like literally refers to him as like a failure or a failed detective, like whatever. Now, it was weird to me because they didn't explain in the first episode, but the reason that they think he's a failure is because during a bank heist where a guy had a gun on a woman and he was given permission to shoot, he shoots the dude, but then the woman had like Stockholm syndrome or something and then picked up the gun and aimed it at him, a police officer who had a gun and was also given permission to shoot anyone who was a threat. And he shoots her, doesn't kill her, but he shoots her, and then he feels so bad about it. He's like, I'll never be able to shoot anyone again. And his cop buddies are like, well, I guess that means you can't be a cop anymore. So if I had known that was the premise, I would not have taken anything that happened in the first 15 minutes of this show seriously. Right? Because I'm still operating on the idea that this was serious. So then we get introduced finally to Kanbei, who's sort of been like hovering in the background. You see him fly into the country. He's got this fleet of butlers, fancy cars. And the first thing that we ever really see the character do is, while we know there's an active bomb threat, he drives his car through, and when I say through, I mean through this parade of classic vehicles, just slamming into car after car after car, doesn't give a shit, just running people over. He's about to run over a child, and then Haru jumps out and like, oh, don't run over the kid, and Kanbei's like, oh yeah, it's probably a bad idea to do that, and just slams his car into a telephone pole, and then he gets out, physically assaults the Middle Eastern dude who's like at the head of the procession, is like making fun of him. And, you know, by the way, I'm a sidebar to a sidebar. I will never complain about really shitty English VA dubbed in Japanese language productions, because I'm pretty sure anyone who speaks Farsi or whatever the fuck that guy was supposed to be talking, it has far more complaints than I will ever have. This isn't like what was it? What's that famous one? Shoot, now I'm forgetting it. It was like the rock and roll anime from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Black something. Where they got that line where they're supposed to be in New York and like a black guy walks up to the one of the guitarists on the band, and like it's a white guy's voice like, "Hey, get out of my way, buddy." It was probably that level of bad, but I don't speak that language, so I cannot confirm it. But my God, he just rips him out of his car, throws him on the ground in like a very sexual downward dog position,
and then pays him,
and then just like buys his car, even though the guy never offered it for sale. Mm-hmm. Somehow his AI just forcibly bought this dude's car, and it was basically at that moment that I knew I should not be taking this show seriously at all, because everything that happens afterwards is a violation of every form of good policing you could ever imagine. They determined that the bomb is in the back of a car that's just moving around the city. They have no idea who's in the car. They have no idea. They say they've apprehended the bomber, but how would they fucking know that if the bomb is in the car? Like, how do they know that the people in the car aren't cooperating? The answer is they fucking don't. And so Kanbei just uses his money to like, and his super AI to like hack into the traffic light system for the whole city, like fucks up the whole city to like sort of kind of like direct the truck to go over a bridge. Now, mind you, at no point did anyone say, oh, it would be fine if this bomb blew up the bridge. Like if it blew up at a empty park or somewhere else, like we don't know that. Kanbei doesn't know that. Nobody knows this. And then, knowing that there's a bomb in the back of the car, raises the bridge while the car is on it, and then slams his newly bought car into the back of the car to, I guess, push it over the edge of the top of the bridge. But he wasn't making any effort to get anyone who was driving that car out of the fucking car. Like, the two people in it, one dude just, like, randomly pieces out. He's like, I'm not doing this. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. And the woman who's driving, both of whom who did not know the bomb was in the car, has to be rescued by Haru, who wasn't going to be in the car with Kanbei in the first place. He just threw himself in there with like 50 seconds left. And then the nigga almost dies because the car falls off, explodes. Kanbei's just like standing on the bridge looking at him. And Haru's like holding on to the edge like, I might also fall. And the dude's like, and then he falls. And that's the episode. Like that was episode 1. So I don't understand how this could be anything but a comedy. Because if it's not a comedy, then this is the most ridiculous world ever. And it's supposed to like be our world. So that's the synopsis for episode 1. If that sounds exciting to you, you can go watch it. I have a whole list of other problems that have nothing to do with anything happening in the show. Most of them have to do with cop worship. And I get that it's possible that this is a cultural difference. I don't know. I don't mind being corrected.
Yeah.
But I'm fairly certain that in the United States, even though we're dealing with all these issues around policing and it's a hot button political issue now, in terms of pop culture, for many decades, cop worship was on television. There were any number of cop shows, movies about cops. It was always a great backstory for protagonists because it was working class, but then it was also something where if you want to tell a story about bucking the system, you could always have like the working class cop hero who is struggling against, the institutional problems and he has to go vigilante to get the real stuff done. But after a while, those types of stories in the US became very, very out of step with culture. I mean, you still see it. There's 8 billion CSIs and other things on television on a weekly basis, and they're very popular. But as far as like the general narrative, we don't see as much of that. Now, Japan, I don't know what their relations are both between cops and people, or just the status of police officers in popular culture. I imagine it's a little bit different. It seems like a lot of what this show was trying to say, and because I don't know. I don't know if like you got a different vibe, but my vibe was like they were basically presenting Kanbei being rich as the solution to the logjam of bureaucracy and hierarchy that they're sort of arguing is like hamstringing the police from air quotes doing their jobs. Did you get that feeling, or am I alone on this?
I can kind of see that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So therefore the fact
well,
that he
also no one holds him accountable.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and the fact that he's like mask off Bruce Wayne is is worrisome in some ways that like the Batman character. Because I thought when I saw this, I got Batman vibes, I got Big O vibes, which is largely
I definitely can get
Batman.
the Big O. I definitely got Big O vibes.
Yeah, like I got all that stuff. Plus he had a butler. Plus he had like a sentient AI. Plus in episode 2, we find out he has a literal bat cave. Like we find all that stuff out. But like he's mask off Batman, but in a weird way. Like if you look at the Batman story in 2020 vision, Batman is actually a horrifying like creature of our culture because it's this idea of like unchecked vigilantism that is justified by the insanity and extremity of the types of villains or bad guys who are out there. This idea that the police, whether they can be trusted or not, are so overmatched that you need someone who's beyond accountability and has unlimited resources to just brutalize bad people into behaving so that we can like have a pretty good society. Like that's what Batman is. But when he's wearing a mask and he's running around as a superhero and is dealing with superhero things, it kind of takes the edge off of that because this is a ridiculous fantasy world. But this show is set in our reality, and it's a reality where a person with, by the show's own reckoning, unlimited money can just shoot missiles at an apartment building because some people wanted to do mescaline. I don't think that's... I don't know what message that's trying to send. Like, like Kanbei is not a heroic character. He cares somewhat about some people, but he's so rich that like even in the episodes where like he is sort of narrowly focused on like a single crime, like, you know, the hostage situation in the third episode, or in the second episode, one woman dying from a drug overdose. Even when he's like that focused, it just kind of lays out this idea that you could get proper police attention for your problem if you were very wealthy, you had money, which is also like, I don't think the message that the show was trying to send. So yeah, sounds like I hate this show, but I don't. I just think that it works way better as a comedy than as anything else. Now, if I find out that it's not intended to be a comedy, because it's dealing with some pretty heavy stuff, I will be very upset that this wasted everybody's time. So those are my broad feelings. So I would actually recommend it to those who find these kinds of wacky policing hijinks to be entertaining. I do not. So I will not be watching.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you said it better than me. I was gonna try to make it seem like I might watch it. I'm not going back.
No, it's totally fine. Like I think we had talked a little bit before we got on or started recording, was this idea that like it felt almost like a Bollywood movie to me, or a specific type of like Bollywood action movie, in the sense that it was like wacky. It involved a police officer as a superhero main character, and that as much as a lot of those Bollywood movies, like all movies, are reactions to the society they come from. So in India, it's a reaction to worries about corruption. You have these super cops who can break all the rules because, frankly, no one else is following them to get the bad guys who deserve it. Here you have an example of like a cop who can break all the rules, but instead of corruption, it's just bureaucracy, hierarchy, and abuse, like work abuse, which I know is actually a really big issue in Japanese like business culture. I don't know anything about the police or the government ministry, but it sounds like it's also a problem. And then anecdotally, I don't know if you follow any of some of the content creators who are on YouTube who actually live in Japan in the anime space, but I remember I was listening to a conversation where they were describing just how tedious it is to do anything in like a Japanese business.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying something about that.
Yeah, it's just like it's just so tedious because you'll wait days or weeks for just permission to ask someone another question. And obviously their laws are different, so like they don't have fair use laws, they don't have a lot of like the freedom of expression laws that are here. So the end result, I guess, is that I could sort of see parts of the show sort of being a parody of that stuff as well. But I don't know enough. It is kind of funny though that he basically the show justifies murdering or nearly murdering drug users. That's weird. I'm not sure I'm behind that at all, but otherwise it seems like just a silly cop show.